Hey, good morning, Facebook family and friends. It's Brother Aaron at Calvary's Corner. Just wanted to share something encouraging this morning with you. Hope everybody's having a good week. Lots of humidity here in Florida. The verse that I wanted to read is concerning the caregiving of Aaron and Hur to Moses during a battle against the Amaleks. If you're familiar with Exodus chapter number 17, I'll read verse number 12. The Bible says, "And Moses' hands were heavy, and they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat thereon. And Aaron and Hur stayed up his hands, and one on the one side and the other on the other side. And his hands were steady until the going down of the sun." So here we see that Moses' hands are being raised in order to prevent a defeat by Amalek. And he was growing tired. He was growing weary. It seemed as if he couldn't go on any further. But luckily, he had two people in his life that were encouragers. He had two people that were willing to step out of the limelight, to step away from maybe the battle themselves, and to encourage him and to help him. The first word that I think of when I think of the story of Aaron and Hur here is caregiving. Caregiving. There's a segment of our society that works as nurses and as caregivers to the elderly. And man, oh man, what a job that must be. They devote their time and their strength and a large portion of their lives to help those that can't help themselves. As Christians, that needs to be our call. Helping the helpless. Pure religion, undefiled before the Lord, is what we need to have in our daily life. To help the fatherless, and really, that should be our main goal. We see here Aaron and Hur didn't have any applause in mind or any limelight in mind when they decided to help Moses in his time of need. But the Bible says that they were willing to be in their place. What we need is, we don't need necessarily another Moses, but we could probably use another Hur. We could probably use another Aaron. Someone that is willing to help the man of God. Not someone who's wanting to take the mantle, necessarily become the Elisha to the Elijah, but someone who's willing to get behind and push. At the end of the school year this year, we did a tug of war, and it doesn't always work out in your favor when you do a tug of war. But it's not necessarily one person that wins in the game of tug of war. It's everybody pulling in unison. And if you've ever played, sometimes you win and sometimes you get dragged across the ground. But it's everybody doing their part. The Bible says that we're all pieces of the body that fit together. And not all the times are you going to be the hand or you're going to be the head. But if we're willing to do our part, we'll have somewhere where we fit in. It just so happened that in this story that Aaron and Hur fit in as servants. What America needs is not another mouth, not another head, but someone who's willing to serve quietly alongside their man of God. You know, it could be that if Aaron and Hur hadn't stepped up, that the battle would have been lost. I wonder how many battles in our lives and in our churches are lost because of the unwillingness of the servants. How many times have men of God threw in the towel and maybe stepped down from being a pastor or stepped down from serving the Lord because they didn't receive an encouraging hand or an encouraging word from their church family? Calvary and those listening, it's our time to be encouragement to our pastor. It's our time to be encouragement to our family and friends in our services. It's not time to cut each other down. It's not time to land blast each other, but it's time to uphold the hands of those in our circles. It's time to put stones underneath them and lift their hands up during the battle. God help us. God help us to serve quietly. God help us to take this lesson, and all of us to learn from Aaron and Hur. There's a lot to be said about these two. The Bible doesn't record them in the next few verses, and it doesn't need to. They built an altar of the great victory that was won. And maybe the victory was due in large part to Moses and his hands being lifted during the battle. But in my opinion, Moses would have never got to that point were it not for the servants who were willing to hold his hands. And truth be told, they stood united. And when the victory is not determined by one person, when it's not one person's victory, But when it's for the greater good, when it's for the Lord, it won't matter whose name's written down. It won't matter whose name's shouted. So today, as Christians, we must determine to be caregiving. We must determine to be there to uphold the arms of our church leadership and our government and those around us. Hey, God bless you. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Don't forget, God requires servitude. Bye-bye.